Hello, teachers. Very good evening. A warm welcome from Next Education. Right. Uh, can you all hear me? Can somebody raise your hand? Yes. Great. Thank you so much for joining on time. And good afternoon, Ms. Hasneet. Right, teachers, and a warm welcome from Next Education to all of you. And we are Next Education. We are an 18-year-old company. We are a SaaS-based education technology services company, and we are into K-12 education for the past 18 years, and serving about 8,000 schools in India and abroad. And today we are here to talk about some language development in early years. And this session, as the title says, hear it, say it, read it, and write it. Can you see my screen, teachers? Hello? What happened? Hello?
Turn off your mic, huh?
Tell me.
Ma'am, screen is you're not presenting the PPT, ma'am.
I
And don't
don't
share
know.
whole screen, ma'am. Just share that.
No, I don't know. I think the system hanged.
Okay. Okay.
Can you share? Can you share? Can somebody share the screen? I am representing again. Is this fine now? Just ask them to check. Yeah, I think it is presenting now. Only this one.
Background. Post teacher. Background है मैडम का. Next education
Yeah. Hello. Very good evening, teachers. I think due to more number of participants, I think the system hanged. So I think my apologies for that. So let's start. So when this title was presented, what did this title tell you about the session? Can somebody respond? What did this title tell you about the session? What did you think we are going to discuss today? You can even chat. Teachers, I think you can chat. Yeah. How to make children read. Great. LSRW. Yeah. Teachers, I think LSRW, I think we're all aware, right? Then why do you think we need a session? Do you think we are going to discuss something else? Focus on language and reading? Great. Yes. Okay. Before we start, I have a question for all of you. Early language and literacy, writing skills. Great. So there are two things, language and literacy, right? What do you think language and literacy are they both two different terms, or are they same? Do they have a different meaning and purpose? What is a language and what is literacy? Teachers, help teachers understand the correct order of thinking. Great, teachers. Great. Great. Thank you so much. But my next question for all of you is, what do you think language is and what is literacy is? Are they both the same or are they different? They are two different terms. Yes. They are different. Great. They are two different terms. What is the ability to understand and communicate? How to pronounce correctly, to write correctly, ability to read and write. Language is how we communicate. Wonderful. Literacy is the ability to read and write and understand what we read. Great. Great. Language is the medium of communication. Great. So out of the four skills, the listening, speaking, reading, and writing, what do you think are the skills of communication and what do you think are the skills of literacy? What do you think the skills of language communication, language, and what are the skills of literacy? Listening comes first, obviously. Ma'am, because of the number of participants, we will not be able to unmute, ma'am. So we request you to chat. Listening and speaking are the skills of communication, and reading and writing. Language is bigger. Literacy is a part of a language. Yes. Great. Yes, teachers. So you're all right. So today we are here to discuss language and literacy, both the skills which are the core of language. Yes, language comes first. Reading and writing are the skills. So let us discuss the four skills of language today and language and literacy put together today. So when we talk about language, you're all right. Listening and speaking are language skills and reading and writing are literacy skills. So the session has a tagline, the journey from listening to emergent writing. Why are we still focusing on writing in early years? Is that required? Do you think that plays a very, very major and important role in building language for children? Right. I think the session will actually tell us how important it is to build the language from listening to writing. Yes, yes. So we are going to have two sessions. each of 25 minutes. So we will discuss about what LSRW looks like in early years, and we will discuss about the classroom strategies for each skill. I know this is very, very tough for all of us, to actually deal with this generation kids, especially in the early years. And we're all doing a wonderful job. That we all need to pat ourselves for actually addressing the needs of this generation kids. It is really, really damn tough. I always tell teachers it is easy to handle primary kids and high school children, but it is damn difficult to handle a kindergarten child. So we are doing a great job of working at that foundation level. So let us understand what different strategies we all can actually adapt to suit to this Zen Alpha kids. Then Z is gone, now this is Gen Alpha. So here I have a small a quote by Dr. Louisa. She is a psychiatrist and she's a clinical psychologist who actually had done a lot of work on how children learn language. So she says, if children can't hear it, they can't say it. If they can't say it, they can't read it. If they can't read it, and they cannot write it. So this says that hearing, speaking, reading, and writing are all interconnected, right? Now, how did we all learn to speak? How did we learn speaking? Did you learn letters first? Who spoke more, you or your adults? By hearing, yes, exclusively by listening to people we have learned. By listening to adults, correct? By listening, yes. And did we all learn letters first? By listening to our elders, definitely. We have not learned letters first. Yes, yes, yes. We have never learned. None of us must have learned letters, right? Before we entered school, we have not learned letters at all, right? We only had learned how to speak. Just hearing others speak, just listening to what people said. If you are looking at a 9-month-old child, the child is only able to say amma, papa, mama is with just listening. So we say the child looks at our lip movement, the way we are moving our lips, the way we are making eye contact, exclusively through that. A 6-month-old, 8-month-old child is saying amma, papa, whatever the first sounds the child is able to pronounce is exclusively through listening. And this example itself sets a tone that listening is a very, very important skill. So I should say thanks to pandemic, or I should really, curse pandemic. I am really not sure. But if you talk about this generation kids, the Zen Alpha kids actually are deprived of this listening skill. Children are not having patience to actually listen because of this fast-paced generation, and the way children are using technology, the way children are using gadgets. It is listening has actually is going to become an obsolete skill, right? We are not going to see children or even adults now, if you look at being able to sit for some time and listen, right? So that is the first skill that is very, very important for all of us to learn a language and to communicate. But that skill itself is actually very, very ignored of, I should say, right? So who spoke more, you or your adults, when you were young? It's a very, very tricky question, right? We spoke more, adults spoke more. Yes, right. So, there are cases where, adults spoke more in certain situations, and, in certain situations, children speak more. If you ask me, children actually speak more, adults. So in the beginning, till the time the child is able to pronounce, right? Yes, they spoke and we copied. That is the first instance. And then later on, children actually take lead. And then adults, we stop speaking, because, there are instances, I don't know how many of you have children in the kindergarten stage. So you say, shut your mouth and sit now. Abhi, enough. Bas, don't speak. So those were the, instructions we give, and those were things we actually tell children. But now I'm really seeing a lot of difference in a way children are behaving at home now. I am not seeing children speaking like how we were speaking when we were young, right? for whatever other reasons. So this is something which really, because listening is not there, speaking is impacted. That's what I strongly feel, right? So let's see. Um, Now, children learn language naturally in sequence, not through worksheets. I had to literally put this on the slide because I've seen teachers asking us, because we are an education company. We have a curriculum, we have different types of curriculum for different types of schools where we serve. We serve all kinds of schools like your CBSE, ICSE, state board, international, whatnot, everything. We serve exclusive preschools, we serve exclusively kindergarten schools. So we have curriculums for different segments of schools. So anywhere I go, anywhere I talk to teachers, anywhere I talk to early education specialists and facilitators, everybody ask about worksheets. There is much more beyond worksheets, teachers. There is much more beyond worksheets. I think we all need to actually give it a thought and think why it is very important for children to learn language naturally in sequence, where for us worksheets exclusively is writing, right? So writing becomes last. So there are three more skills which we have to build. So in this language learning journey, language has to be learned naturally, but not through worksheets, right? So, as I said, language grows naturally. Early pressure harms confidence. The research, there is so much of research happening across, right from UNESCO to NAEYC. Everybody are doing a lot of research in terms of how children learn things, not only in terms of language, but in terms of how children learn things, especially in the young age. There is so much of research that talks about brain development happens before the age of 8. Brain development happens at a very rapid level, right? So in that rapid level, we are actually thinking that because the brain is growing very rapidly, we have to give so much to the children at a very early age, and that is leading to pressure, and that pressure is actually harming the confidence of children. So if you have time, please read a lot of articles that are available, that are given by research articles given by UNESCO and NAEYC across the globe, right? So, and readiness before performance. We want children to perform, but are we really making them ready for it? That is something which we all need to think of. Gone are those days where we use a blackboard, we use a piece of chalk, and then teach children A, B, C. Gone are those days. Nowadays, children actually are learning so much using technology. I am literally surprised. A 2-year-old child is able to use a voice search on a Google, right, on internet. So if somebody is able to use voice search and get what he wants, what is the point of us pushing children for writing? That is something which is a big question. I don't know. We will have to all put all our hands together and talk something what research is now wanting us to do, or do something what research is wanting us to do, right? So the language journey matters so much because if there is no pressure, the journey is very smooth. Otherwise, we end up skipping certain stages. Let's see how it happens, right? So when we rush letters, yes, ma'am, I completely agree with you, Uma, ma'am. True. When we rush letters, we weaken language. Strong foundations prevent future learning gaps. Recently, I was reading an article, which actually said, I think we all know, right? Now, NEP is wanting children to be tested on, foundation literacy and numeracy before they move to grade 3. Right. I think eventually we are going to get a small assessment from the NEP saying that all children have to, undergo this assessment before they move to grade 3. Why did this happen? Because they have seen a lot of gaps in foundational literacy and numeracy. So when I say foundational literacy and numeracy, children by the end of grade 2, if we talk about developmental milestones, should be able to read sentences, but children are not able to confidently read sentences. It's not about only reading, it's about the pacing at which children should be able to read. That pacing is very slow. Children are fumbling, children are not confident, children are not able to comprehend the sentences, comprehend a paragraph, comprehend a story told by the teacher, right? Because listening is very poor, right? So when we rush letters, we weaken that language. So we as early childhood educators, we need to understand that it's not only about letters. Because I see teachers, when there is a small worksheet that is changed in order to help children think, for me, teachers write back saying that, ma'am, your worksheets are very, very hard. Ma'am, these worksheets are not straight. Let them think. What is wrong in wanting, if children think, why should we give them everything easy? Right? So these are some things which, we, not only letters, even if when it comes with numbers also, it's the same thing. So we are in a position to just rush letters. If children are able to read the letters or write the letters in sequence, we are done with our work. So that is a mindset I see. I think we need to entirely shift that mindset and move into what the research says. Right? So research says that the current state is this and the desired state is this, and this is the learning gap that we see. And that's why NEP is strongly recommending FLN, foundational literacy and numeracy skills. Right? As I said, hear it, say it, read it, and write it. And this is the stage, and this is the sequence with which language has to be taught. So if you ask me, I was reading some article recently. It says, when we talk about reading and writing, it is 70%. When we talk about listening and speaking, it is only 30% in all classrooms across the world. It's not only in India. It's not only in the Middle East. So it's not only in Africa. It is across the world. So everywhere in the early years or in learning, listening and speaking is pushed down by reading and writing. But children are having problems with reading and writing because these stages are skipped. Right? And it is very, very important that we need to ensure that children are, not skipping these stages and they are going it in order. Right? So language develops through listening and speaking, meaning making and expression, not formal reading and writing. If children are able to speak, they will be able to read and write. And that is proved by research. It's not that I am telling, but it is, even if you have kindergarten children, teachers, please try it out at home. You speak to children, then ask them to speak back, give them something to read, and then give them something to write, and then they will be able to do a good job. You can actually do it with one concept. Please try and test it out with your own children, or select some children of your class and then try it out with them. That works. And this journey mirrors how children learn their mother tongue. And that's how we all had learned. Why have we become fluent in our mother tongue? Because we had that environment. We had people around us speaking that environment, speaking the same language. We are seeing things in that native language. We are associating things, we are associating objects in the same language. And that's why our mother tongue is very, very strong. And unfortunately, in our schools, children are learning a foreign language. English for us is a foreign language. We are non-native speakers of English. And that's why it is really, really important for all of us to understand that we don't skip these stages for children. Mother tongue is learnt this way. That is why children are very, very fluent in mother tongue, because mother tongue used these stages, because children are listening that, children are speaking that, and hence reading and writing ideally should happen in the mother tongue. But for us, children are listening mother tongue, children are speaking mother tongue, reading and writing is happening in English. And that is the learning gap, I think we are all now facing in schools. So in order to avoid that learning gap, let us go back and then ensure that listening and speaking also is happening in English, and hence reading and writing will follow, and reading and writing, we will not have a problem. Right, teachers? Yeah. Now, if we ask what listening looks like in early years, for you, what is listening in early years? For example, if I say a child, thank you, ma'am. If I say the child is, listening in my class, what do you mean by that? How do you ensure the child is listening? How do you ensure, or how do you know that the child is listening? Our child had listened. Nodding his head, wonderful. Paying attention, okay. Eye contact, asking some questions, responding. I like this word, Shanu ma'am. Yeah. Ask further questions. Sridevi ma'am, correct? Great teachers. So if the child is nodding head, do we know the child had comprehended our instruction? Say, for example, I'm saying, open your book, asking questions. Following the instructions, Deepika ma'am well said. Follows the instructions, correct, right? So if the child had listened to us, the child is, yes, the child follows the instructions, the child is nodding the head, the child is doing what we said, right? If the child is able to show that action for us, listening happened, right? Let us see, right? Attention and response, following instructions, and auditory discrimination, right? And self-regulation in listening, as they all mentioned. Now I think most of you mentioned that interest, getting ready. If the teacher is talking something, leave everything and look at the teacher, right? Responding to verbal cues. All of you look at me, clap your hands, right? Even without the teacher. So we all do this in our classrooms, right? So we say, if I clap, all of you should look at me, eyes on you. This is a very, very nice energizer, and a very, very nice attention grabber that you can use in the classroom. Eyes on me. If the teacher says eyes on me, children will have to say eyes on you and then look at you. Eyes on me, eyes on you, right? So these are all verbal cues, or some actions that teachers follow. And if children are responding to those, that means children are listening to us, right? Now, listening is not silence, teachers. We have to remember. If children are silent, that means children are not listening. So that response is what we need to look at when we want children to listen, right? It is an active understanding. So if children had listened to you perfectly, that means comprehension happened. Children understood what you said. And that's what we have to train children on, right? So for that, there are some strategies that we can use in our classrooms. Let's see. Right? Listening improves when activities are playful and purposeful. But I don't know how far we are actually doing purposeful activities in the class, because I see teachers doing a lot of activities. Let us start comparing, right? See, these are some activities. Teachers, you can actually use all these activities in our classes, right? Simon says, right? And clap, pattern, copy, right? And sound guessing games, freeze games, treasure hunt with verbal cues, draw and do, right? So you can give instructions and children are, drawing and doing it, right? Movement instructions, clean up directions game, obstacle course, pass the sound. So these are all small, small activities which you can actually do it in your classrooms. Draw and do is a wonderful, wonderful thing for listening, writing, and speaking. After you draw, you ask children to respond back. They'll be able to do a wonderful job. You can say, I want you to draw two standing lines and two sleeping lines. Now close all the two standing lines and two sleeping lines. Then there is a shape that you see. Which shape do you see, teachers? Two standing lines and two sleeping lines can make a shape. Very good, ma'am. Thank you. Square. Yes. Ladder. Yes. It becomes a ladder also. Yes, ma'am. Square. Is it not a rectangle? Yes, square and rectangle. Correct. Right. So when children are doing this, then you can ask them, what did you draw? And children are forced to say. And this is a very, very nice activity that you are actually doing, focusing on all the three skills: listening, speaking. They are reading the picture, and then they are writing also. So all the four skills. Such a small activity, it becomes a box. Yes, Nasreen ma'am. Right. So that's how it is, teachers. What happens if children don't get enough listening practice? Is there a harm? What happens if children don't get enough listening practice? Speaking skills are affected, correct? Jumping to conclusions, yes. Yes. They get distracted, yes. The first and the foremost important skill that gets affected, sequence matters. Yes, ma'am. Yes, Karimam. Sequence is very, very important, right? The first and the foremost important skill that children get deprived of is speaking. I see a lot of teachers telling me, ma'am, children are not speaking. They're not speaking because listening is not happening. As simple as that. Just because listening is not happening, they're not speaking. And if listening is proper, speaking becomes easier for children. Because while listening, children are comprehending. To speak, there is so much of comprehension that needs to go into your head. Right? You're not reading, you're speaking. If you have to speak, that means your mind, your brain has to work very, very fast. Obviously, when speaking is not there, reading will not happen, writing also. They respond with actions, gestures, that real proof that real emotions need no explanation. Absolutely, ma'am. If they are responding, that is still fine, right? Yes. If listening is there, both listening and speaking both will get affected. Children don't respond; they respond wrong. Their responses will become incorrect. They have incorrect responses. Right? Yeah. Now let us see, how do we incorporate this listening in our classrooms? Give short and clear instructions. Start with one step and move to 2, 3 steps. Many a times I see teachers giving multiple instructions in pre-primary classrooms, teachers that don't work. And you have to repeat instructions also. That also I don't see. So all of you open your books, all of you open your books, all of you open your books. And you should have a pause time in between 2 instructions. Right? That is something which we have to really focus on when we give instructions in the classroom. And instructions have to be very, very short. Open your books, look at me. Don't give 2-step instructions for children. It should be always 1 step, right? With visual cues, use visual cues with instructions. I think you all know about those visual. Yes, short and clear, and then wait. Yes, visual cues you all know, right? For writing, for reading, you all can have your own visual cues, teachers. There is no right, there is no wrong, right? So if I clap, children should look at me. If I snap, they should stand up. Whatever, you can define your own visual cues for children. You can use flashcards. Also, you can use screens. You can display something on your screen. You can draw something on your board. When you draw this particular picture, children all will have to sit and look at you, or children will have to open their books, right? Whatever. So you can define your own visual cues and gain attention before speaking. Class is noisy, children are doing their work, and I'm giving my instructions. Will that work, teachers? That doesn't work, right? See, now you all have joined. So I actually wished you, right? And then I said, we are from Next Education, and we started. And unfortunately, my screen shut down and my system hanged, and I was not able to, communicate. And then we paused, and then we started again. Right? Before we started also, then I said, are we ready? And then we started. So if I don't gain your attention, there is no point. Whom am I speaking to? Am I speaking with the classroom tables and walls? No, right? So we have to gain attention before speaking. It could be anything. It could be an energizer. It could be an attention grabber. It could be your voice. It could be your call out. It could be your clap. It could be anything. Right? And repeat important instructions calmly, especially when you're doing activities, teachers. Say, for example, you're doing a fingerprinting activity, right? And your instructions have to be very, very clear for children. And see, when our instructions are clear, we are giving that responsibility to children. When children are made responsible, it is their experience. Most of the times I see teachers giving one instruction after the other, right? So that is still fine. And you go give personal instructions. That also doesn't work always, teachers. Sometimes it is okay, but sometimes when you're giving instructions, give it to the whole class. A whole class instruction is always preferable. You have to get the children used to listening to a whole class instruction, because going forward, grade 1 and 2, they will have to sit and listen to a whole class instruction. So we have to train children backwards to actually ensure that they sit in the class and the teacher is standing at the blackboard and giving instructions, and child should get tuned to those instructions and follow and perform, right? So, and in order to ensure that happens, our instructions have to be repeated. We have to repeat the instructions, right? And use signals and routines, right? As a teacher, children need to know that if my teacher gives me homework, this is the way she wants me to sit. This is the way she wants me to put my book. This is the way she wants me to hold my pencil. And this is the way she wants me to look at the board and do it. Once I am done, this is the way I close the book. This is the place I put it. So all this routine children need to know. Right? So teachers, we have come to the end of the year. Now you're going to start your new academic year. I think the beginning of the academic year is where you set these routines for children. right? So these routines will have to happen through instructions. So if your instructions are very, very clear, so children need to understand this is what my teacher wants, and this is how I should follow. Right. So I'll tell you a very, very small example. When my daughter was young, she used to always tell me, Mommy, if I don't do my science homework, that is okay, but I have to do my English homework. Never, there was not even a single day that she missed her English homework, but science homework, okay, okay, chalega. Why is that so? Because her English teacher had set a routine and her science teacher had not. And that's why for her English teacher, English teacher wants her to be like this. She defined it. And she knows if I don't do, my English teacher will get angry. So I have to do it. So I'm doing it. But my science teacher is okay, okay, okay. That's okay. Even if I don't do, she'll give me some time, whatever. So that way, one is English teacher's instructions are very clear and she is very, very strict and firm. But science teacher's instructions are not that clear. And at the same time, she is okay, fine, chalo. This I was talking when she was in grade 1 and 2. Chalo, okay, theek hai. Right? So that should not be the case. So when you want to set these routines, giving instructions, set it in the beginning of the year, teachers. That is very, very important. Right? And model good listening behavior. Right? So children observe us a lot when you're talking with your colleagues, when you're talking to your parents want, they come and meet you, right? So the way you listen is what your children, your students observe, right? When a parent wants to come and talk to you and she or he is talking to you, and the way you're standing, the way you're listening, the way you're nodding your head, that is what children observe you. So you model good listening behavior, right? If children are speaking, the way you maintain your eye contact, the way you look at the child, the way you encourage the child, this is all good listening behavior, and that's what children learn from us. Right? And reduce background noise during instructions. When you're giving instructions, please ensure that you maintain absolute silence in the class. Right? And use listening games. I think we have seen some games like Simon Says you can play, right? And appreciate listening behavior. If children are listening to you, please appreciate. Appreciation plays a very, very important role, not only in children's life, even in our life. Now, if somebody tells me, ma'am, very good points, I really feel very happy about it, right? If I say, ma'am, your children they do activities wonderfully. If your principal ma'am comes or your coordinator ma'am comes and says, so-and-so teacher's class is too good, no, they're very, very disciplined, you feel so good about it, right? Yeah. Yes, yes, ma'am. Yes, in positive manner, student feels always happy. Yeah, and at the same time, give them feedback. It's not appreciation always, but they need to be given timeouts also, right? So whatever. So please appreciate listening behavior and give processing time and check understanding. This processing time is something which is really, really important for listening. We ask a question, we don't wait, and then we expect an answer immediately. Wait, children need time to process. When you ask a question, give that pause time for children to process and think, and then check understanding. Sometimes it so happens your question, children might not have comprehended the way you wanted it. Then give some prompts. Ask. Yes. Yes, yes, ma'am. So, and any questions related to listening, teachers? So this is all about listening. So very, very short snippets I have taken. We can even have a wonderful session exclusively on listening skills also with wonderful activities. We'll do it later. Any questions or you want to ask anything? If not, we'll move to the next skill, which is very, very important, the speaking skill. Should we go ahead, teachers? Great. Now, this is a very, very important statement. Children speak when they feel safe, not when they feel judged. Not only children, anybody. Now, if I ask you to actually, I will hand out the screen to you, and if I ask you to, present, you will be able to present. But if I say, now I'm going to give you SSU, I'm going to give you some marks, I'm going to give you this is a competition, so there are 10 people who are going to present, out of which I'm going to judge you, etc. What happens? We kind of start having that inhibition inside, right? So similarly, same thing happens with children. Yes. So when they feel safe, speaking is fluent and it has a flow. If they feel judged, that's why when you're asking something related to letters, something related to words, etc., children are afraid because there you're judging. But if you ask me, what did you do yesterday? Where did you go? Did you all go for a movie? Or did you go to a shopping mall? And you see the way the flow comes because there children are feeling that they are not judged. They are speaking very freely, right? So speaking is something which has a flow when they feel safe. Now, what does speaking look like in early years? Expressing needs and feelings, responding to questions, using vocabulary, forming sentences, and social communication. And I think all the others, I think, are self-explanatory except for social communication. What do you think social communication is? Replying, answering, yes. What do you think social communication is? Interaction with peers. Well said, ma'am. Well said. Yes, interaction with peers. Being able to help them out is social communication. Somebody is having a problem, somebody did not bring something, helping, asking them, what do you want? Yes, interaction with their peers, interaction with the teachers, interaction with the sub staff, interaction while they were traveling to the school, probably if they're taking a public transport or if they're traveling in a bus, right? So social communication is also speaking, right? Yeah. Participation in group settings, having that clarity and confidence, right? So when you're conducting a group activity, so there are many things that children need in a group activity. So I always tell them, when you're doing a group activity, don't give enough material to the children. So that way we are actually training children to negotiate, to ask, to say please and thank you, to actually share materials, because at home that is not happening, right? So if you have two kids, parents are buying two toys, they are not buying one and telling them to share, right? Sharing is again complaining, right? If there are two sisters at home and both of them are of almost of the same age and have the same personality, and teach they are not wanting to share things. I have seen in my brother's family, right? So they're not sharing. They have complaints. Why should you take my dress? Why should you take your dress? Why should you take my bag? Why should you use my shoes? They're having that, right? So we want that to happen in school. That's why in a group setting, I actually propose teachers not to share. So if you're doing a drawing activity as a small group activity with 4 children in a group, so I tell teachers to give only 2 crayons. The other two children will have to wait till the other 2 children finish. Right? So that way they are actually asking. They are waiting, learning to wait for their turn. They're learning to share. They're learning to negotiate. Please, 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 one time you give me. Then after I do it, then I'll give you. Right? So this is the way children start negotiating. So there is so much children are learning in a group setting. Right? And speaking also happens there. And speaking happens to the maximum when children, when teachers, when does speaking happen the maximum? When children are in the class? When do you see children speaking to the maximum in school? At what time? Yeah, during recess time, during lunch. Yes, Zarina ma'am, you're right. It is play. When children are playing, when they have a break, when they have recess period, when children are playing, maximum speaking happens. Yes, during lunchtime also children speak a lot, right? Yes. Now there are so many speaking activities here. I think you must be doing a few, and there are few new things here. So talk time circle, early in the morning, you can actually conduct a 5-minute talk time circle. You can actually give them, ask them to speak whatever they want. Picture talk, role play corners. I don't know how many of you have corners in your schools. Now NEP is recommending to have good material for hands-on learning and experience to build up skills. So if you have, wonderful. You can set up a role play corner also, and then in that corner you see a lot of speaking happening, and show and tell, action talk, mystery bag talk. That is also there, right? And the puppet talk, story retell, pair talk, describe and guess, right? Question ball, finish the sentence, weekend sharing. Classroom reporter. This is something which you can actually make your children, become. Every day, one child can be a question ball activity. I will definitely tell you, ma'am. Just give me a minute. Classroom reporter is not classroom monitor, ma'am. Classroom reporter is something every day there will be one classroom reporter. So this child will report what happened in the class that day, end of the day, or you can have it for next day morning, either while before you leave the children home, or early in the morning next day. You can have yesterday's reporter, yesterday's reporting, with this classroom reporter. Every day one child can become a classroom reporter. So he or she will talk about what happened, lunch time mein kya hua, recess time what happened, who came first, who came not. um, Teachers, my voice is clear, or is it only for ma'am, or is it for everybody? I think Garima ma'am says no. Okay, right, right. Ma'am, I think it's your internet connectivity, right? So classroom reporter is something which you can actually start implementing. Every day one child can become a classroom reporter, and you can actually define what you want the child to report. You can only ask about what happened in the recess time, and you can only ask what happened early in the morning. You can ask how many children were absent, who all were absent yesterday, right? So in our class, what did children bring for snacks yesterday or today, right? So that can happen. Now, question ball, right? So the question ball is, you'll have a ball and you will have children sit in a circle, and then you ask a question, and then pass the ball. Next child, the child who catches the ball, will have to answer, and then he will ask a question. It could be anything. It could be any question. What did you bring for snacks today, or what did you learn yesterday, or which color dress are you wearing, or what did you how did you come to school. It could be any question, right? So you ask a question and pass the ball to somebody, and that child will answer, and that child will again ask a question and pass the ball to somebody, and the third child will answer. That's how it is, right? Now, this is something which we all need to actually understand and look at. Speaking. Model, don't correct. Hope you understood this, right? So most of the time we say, this is not how you have to speak. Uh, do this versus don't do this, right? So there is a lot of difference. This is what I meant by modeling. When I want children to stop running in the corridor, for example, I see teachers or anybody, even adults, even at home also, as parents, we say, don't run in the corridor. Why am I talking about exactly? Why am I talking about something which I don't want the child to do? Let me talk about what I want the child to do, right? So what I should say, I want all of you to walk in the corridors. That is what I'm supposed to say. Don't run in the corridors. No, walk. Walk in the corridors. Why am I talking about something which I don't want children to do? Positive words. Yes, ma'am. And expand child's language. We see children saying, what do you call, ma'am, water, for example, ma'am, toilet. Expand the child's language. Do you want? Do you want to go to use the toilet? Do you want to have water? That is how you have to expand. I see teachers saying, toilet, go. No, no, teachers. If you want that speaking to happen in the class, encourage children to speak in sentences by expanding their language, and give wait time. Ask open-ended questions. Did you all have your breakfast? Yes? No. Only two questions. Those are closed-ended questions. Instead, what are you supposed to ask? What did you have for breakfast? I had roti curry, or I had idli dosa, whatever. That will be the answer. Otherwise, yes, no. What did you bring in your tiffin? Correct, ma'am. Yes. That is how you have to. Right. Yes. It is divergent. It is not convergent. Agree with you, ma'am. Now, use sentence starters to build speaking. This is a wonderful, wonderful strategy which you all can. Yesterday, I came to school by at 5 p.m. yesterday. Yeah, by bus. So this is sentence starter. Yesterday, my who dropped me in the school yesterday, my dash dropped me in the school, right? My papa dropped me or my mama dropped, whatever, father, right? So that's how it is. Now talk during play. Most of the time I see teachers, not disturbing children. It is okay not to disturb, but at times it is better to go intervene, see what they are doing, talk to them, ask them what they are doing, ask them, right? So that is how it is. So if you talk to children while they are playing, this speaking really, really builds. Now, repeat new vocabulary in context. Encourage peer conversation. When we are talking about new vocabulary, you use it multiple times. And that's how children pick up vocabulary. I see a lot of feedback, from our curriculum. So we have given a lot of new and slightly complicated vocabulary in order to get children, build that vocabulary. But I get a lot of feedback recently. Also, I think a couple of days back, also there was a school that had written back to me saying that, "Ma'am, you have given words like ambulance, astronaut, right?" uh, See, these are all things that children see ambulance outside, so children need to know that, this is called ambulance, right? Especially after the pandemic, now I think every day once or twice you get to hear ambulance sound, and children need to know, they need to pronounce, right? So astronaut, and we are talking about India. India is looked up, in terms of research in the space. So we children need to understand what is an astronaut. So let them actually have that zeal to understand, and probably maybe we don't know that seed of them becoming an astronaut. We are actually putting that seed in at a very, very early age, right? So when we are using that vocabulary in that context, children remember more. So vocabulary is like, there is no end to learn vocabulary, right? So it is fine, children are finding it difficult. Obviously they need to find it difficult. If you are teaching everything that is easy for children, why should children come to us? There is no need and necessity for children to come to us, right? So slowly, we are not looking at perfection, teachers, that we all need to remember. We are not looking at an end product. The only reason that we are all in the early childhood education profession is to actually put that process in place, right? Yeah. So encourage peer conversation and use visuals to support speaking. Visuals are nothing but pictures. So much of picture reading, so much of display in your classrooms in terms of pictures is really that supports reading a lot, because children don't understand text, they only see pictures. When you're displaying a picture, it is open ended, so I can perceive a picture the way I want it, and then I speak. That's how your thought, your thinking, enlarges. Celebrate effort, not accuracy. This is what I was trying to tell you all. They have tried to speak. Here accuracy is not accuracy. For them to become accurate, there is so much of life, 12, 11 more years in the school. So, you know and we don't need to push that accuracy at that age, right? Celebration of that effort is important. And keep speaking routines short and frequent. I see teachers, continuously doing so much of speaking activities, which is very, very boring for children, right, teachers? So I think we will have more sessions like this, and then probably we will be able to, talk a lot about what all can be done in order to improve speaking. Right now, any questions on speaking, teachers? We are moving to the next skill, which is reading. Now, the child is looking at the picture and telling a story. Is that reading? A child is pretending to read from the memory. Is that reading? A child is recognizing logos and signs. It's not reading. A child predicts what happens next in a story. Is that reading? I see so many no's here. Okay, not exactly. Is observing. I see somebody mentioned picture reading. Siddiqui ma'am, I believe, right? Yeah. Logo is also reading. Siddiqui ma'am, you're absolutely right. Teachers, if the child is looking at a picture and telling us a story, that means the child read that picture. Why do we have so many pictures in pre-primary? The child cannot read text. Reading is not only reading text, teachers. Reading is reading pictures, reading objects, reading environment, reading everything. Reading is anything that you're looking at and that picture is imprinted in your brain, you read it. That is how it is. The child is pretending to actually recollect memory. That means he's reading his memory. This is reading. The child is looking at a 5-star chocolate, even though he doesn't know what is 5-star or a thumbs up. The child is reading that logo. The child is identifying the school's name board. It is reading. If reading is not there, why are we looking at giving so many pictures in our books, teachers? Right? Yes, they are observing pictures and they are reading. Right? The child is predicting what happens next in the story. When I'm talking about a lion in the mouse story, what happens if the lion caught hold of the mouse? And do you think the lion is going to kill? If you are in the place of a lion, will you kill it? The child is predicting, right? That means he actually finished reading the story. Yes. So all the statements that I mentioned on the screen are reading, teachers. They are reading. It is not that it is not reading. They are reading. The child is looking at a picture. That means the child is looking at you and saying, today my teacher is very angry. How does the child know that you're angry? Today my teacher is very happy. How do you know that teacher is how did the child know that you're happy? That means the teacher read you. The child read you. The child looked at you as a picture. The child's your picture is imprinted in the child's brain. Exactly. Right? Is reading in preschool only spelling? Is it reading sentences? Is it forced decoding? No, no, no. I paused. I paused. I think people are actually messaging. Right? Great. So is reading in preschool only spelling? Do you all agree now? Is it only spelling? Is it only reading sentences? Yeah. It is. It is forced decoding. Yeah. Right. Now, these are actually questions for us. Are we valuing meaning making more than perfect decoding? I think we are not. If the child is able to look at the picture and say bat, but at a bat, for us, it is really, really important that the child needs to perfectly code and decode. Are we correcting too quickly instead of expanding the language? Are we giving enough time to think before answering? Are we creating spaces for children to speak freely? Are we recognizing early literacy in its many forms? That's what the previous slide said. In the form of a picture, in the form of an object, in the form of an environment, everything is literacy in early years. Are we really recognizing it? How many of you actually want your children to, as soon as they enter the classroom, to actually look at inside the classroom and find something very new? When I was a teacher, every day I used to put something amidst all my charts. And I used to tell children, as soon as you come, go look at, I have pasted something new today. Some new picture, some random picture which really did not make any sense. That's what I used to do when I was a teacher. Right? So recognizing so many forms of literacy is very, very important. Now, reading starts with understanding, not with letters. And prediction is a powerful reading behavior. We have to ensure that children predict things. Children read pictures before they read words. They read pictures, they read objects, they read environment before they read words. Now, I think we discussed all this. Reading is also picture reading. It is predicting. It is recognizing symbols. It is print awareness. Print awareness is also reading. If the child is not holding the book right way, that means the child is not reading it. The child needs to know how to hold a book, how print moves from left to right. The orientation of print or reading happens from left to right. That is also print awareness. That print awareness is also reading. Understanding meaning from a context. Tracking text from left to right, that is also reading. And turning pages correctly. If you finish reading and you are at the right side corner on the bottom, then immediately you are supposed to do this side. You flip the page to the left, not back. Right? So understanding that print carries meaning. So if the child is seeing a text, that means somebody is telling me something from this, is what you have to. Right? Now, there's a small reading routine. I actually had posted this. If you really feel that you want to incorporate in this class, this is really, really too good. You can actually take this as a part of your reading routine. I think, we will discuss next time. If all of you join in the next webinar, we'll discuss how this happened in your class. So this is just a 10-minute daily routine. You can actually do it daily, or you can do it, every alternate day, etc. So picture walk. So show them some pictures, then do a read aloud, then repeated line participation. So you read the line and children repeat, and quick comprehension question, and then let them retell or act it out. Anything, it works, anything. And for this, you can just have a small picture and have just a 2-liner text is also fine, or a 3-liner text. There is so much of information available on the internet. You can actually just pick randomly, and then you can do it for children teachers. And this really, really works so beautifully. You can actually start it right from your toddler's age group. If you have a toddler section in your school, you can actually do it. Right? And these are all reading activities. Read aloud, building vocabulary through stories, support reading with visuals, always for pre-primary, for young children. And picture work, do a picture work before reading. You have beautiful story pictures, and you ask children what is happening. Don't narrate the story. Ask them to observe, look at the picture, ask questions, ask them to read the picture before they read the text. And model tracking print, and repeated reading, and encourage story retelling. So all these are reading activities that you can do in your class. Now, the key takeaways: focus on meaning, not accuracy. Read aloud every day. Encourage prediction and discussion during stories. So read aloud should happen as a part of your daily routine, teachers. As I said, the 10-minute daily routine, maybe if you can just start incorporating once in every alternate day, and then eventually you can incorporate in your timetable. And accept picture reading as real reading. That we are not doing. I think this is something which we have to actually start, and make reading joyful and pressure free. Right, teachers? Yeah. So these are the 3 skills, and 4th skill will continue the writing in the next webinar. We are running short of time. Do you have any questions, teachers? So can you actually tell me what is one key takeaway that you are taking from this workshop? One thing that you're taking into your classroom from this workshop. Importance of pictures. What is the one thing that you're taking to your classroom? When I'm attending, when I'm giving my 60 minutes, I would definitely want to take something, right? Otherwise, why will I give my 60 minutes? I'm very, very confused in that. Reading routine, yeah. Reading activities, picture reading, wonderful. Focus on reading, short and clear instructions, read aloud, role play corner, great. Expand language, use positive sentences, picture reading, use of positive words, observe, question ball, wonderful. Classroom reporter, talking while playing, give short instructions, great. Enrichment of reading, great, great. Great, teachers. Thank you so much. Let us connect again in the next webinar, and we will discuss the skill of writing in that webinar. Thank you so much.